Toby, take it away.
All right. Good day, everyone. Thanks for joining today's session. This is another one of our quarterly reviews, and it really gives us all an opportunity to brush up on our knowledge, collaborate with each other, and also take a look at some of the new features that have come along so that we might also reach out to our customers and help them with their day-to-day tasks and show them what's going on with the Commvault Advantage. So let's jump right into today's session and start off with some Service Pack specifics. All right, so Service Pack 13 was officially released on September 15th, so just about a month ago. And currently, the automatic download cadence is set to 60 days. So you'll see the latest Service Pack hit those cloud update sites around November 15th. So if you have that automatic download schedule enabled inside of the COM that's about the time it should probably be pulled down. Now you can also go ahead and pull it down manually through the cloud website, the Commvault store, or the Maintenance Advantage site. So if you go to cloud.commvault.com or store.commvault.com, you'll see right up at the home page here, we have the latest Service Pack release. Also under Media Kits is another place you can pull it down. From this area, you can also pull down previous Service Packs and previous version software as well as the hotfix packs. So the hotfix packs, what those bundles do, those are loose updates since the Service Pack has been released. Those are available approximately every Tuesday. We got another one out just this week. And what that allows you to do is to apply hot fixes to whatever Service Pack you currently have deployed. So as you can see here, by the naming convention, there are hot fix packs available for the previous Service Packs as well. Now, why might you need this? Well, in some cases, the environment maybe has a more rigid update or release cycle in terms of maintenance. And the other thing, too, is Service Packs not only introduce new features and enhancements, but can sometimes change behavior of an existing product. So kind of want to be careful about that and maybe perhaps do your diligence in terms of studying up what's going to happen on a given agent or product or feature prior to the upgrade in those cases. So the hotfix packs, what those allow you to do is continue to apply fixes to known bugs with the hot fixes without upgrading to the Service Pack itself, which may contain some additional features. So right there within the Commvault store is where you can pull those down. And you can also pull them down through the Maintenance Advantage website. Now when you go to the Downloads and Packages section here in Maintenance Advantage, you're going to be confronted with this matrix. So this matrix has been around for a little while. What it provides us with is some guidance on where we should be at in terms of the deployed updates inside of the environment. So we're kind of considering at this point that Service Pack 12 is very well baked. It's been around for about 4 months in the field, and it's considered a mainstream release. So right from here, you could also download the software or the hotfix packs. For POCs and new installations, you definitely want to go with the latest and greatest, so pull down Service Pack 13. And if you're on one of these older Service Packs, well, the chart here is indicating that it might be time to consider upgrading. So that's a little bit of guidance that you can pass along to the customer if they're looking for any sort of feedback in terms of when should I update or upgrade. You'll also find this on the documentation page. So right on the home page here, you'll notice that Service Pack 12 is sort of up front and regarded as the mainstream release. So when you do a search, perhaps on one of today's topics, you may be searching the Service Pack 12 documentation. So note here that on the lower left-hand side is where you'll find the Service Pack 13 documentation, as well as the admin console documentation. And then in the middle here, you can locate the previous releases documentation, as well as the previous versions. So when you're engaged in a customer site and either talking about a feature or function, just be aware that it may be, the documentation may be different for that particular service pack. All right, so let's take a look at a couple of things as far as what's new for Service Pack 13. So I'm going to click on what's new. Just wanted to kind of highlight what's available here in the documentation site, because this is also another way we can help educate our customers on how to find information. A lot of it is out there, and here in the documentation site, for example, there's no login required to find this information. So if we click on what's new under announcements, we're going to see quite a few bits of information in terms of what's new. Here's some individual announcements here. Also has links to the available service packs and changes, also on the left-hand side, and the availability of Service Pack 13, some end-of-life announcements, and some other loose updates or announcements here. Now, there is a couple of items that we want to talk about today, including these deprecated or end-of-life items. So each time a service pack comes out or a new version of the software, it's important to also consider what might be actually sunsetting or retiring. So in this case, we have a couple of items for Service Pack 13, that being the SharePoint Server 2007 support has ended as of Service Pack 13. We also, the feature, the database direct access for the SharePoint Server agent has ended as also in Service Pack 13. And then going forward, there's also a couple announcements here for Service Pack 14. The InfiniShare for SharePoint support is ending, and also in Service Pack 14, which is coming up in December timeframe, the SharePoint Storage Manager will be ending or projected to end here in Service Pack 14. So again, that's upcoming stuff, just a few months away. So if you have any accounts that may have those products or features deployed, you might want to reach out and just provide that advisory. Now, there are ways to work with degraded agents and things like that. That's also noted here on the documentation site. So let's take a look at what else is new here. So on the new features in version 11, this is a great page to kind of see a summary of all the latest changes. And then if you click on the changes link here, this is one of my favorites because it provides a matrix. And in Service Pack 13 here, it's actually organized chronologically by service pack. So kudos to the documentation team for getting that organized that way. So not everything that's new or different is listed in here, but there are quite a few highlights. So for example, in the past couple of service packs, we've been talking about the Windows updates requirement there. In Service Pack 13, there's a couple of additional changes we need to be aware of, such as for any v10 COM cells, if they're out there, you can no longer download updates through the ComCell console for version 10. So the workaround there would, you'd need to use the ComVault Store or Maintenance Advantage or something like that. So just a little bit of motivation to get those environments upgraded if for whatever reason there are any out there. Other couple of updates here. With the Outlook add-in, if you're deploying any of those packages, .NET 4.5 will be deployed with it. And we also have a new Hadoop installation package. This is replacing, previously we would deploy the file system agent on the Hadoop nodes. So that's something that's new there too. So that's the change matrix. If you look over on the left-hand side and continue navigating to the available service packs, under Service Pack 13, here's where you can also download the newsletter. So this is one of the items that's actually out there for you in that link that Jim posted in the chat panel that you can pull down. The newsletter allows you to take a moment and reach out to the customer, see how they're doing, offer some assistance, and say, hey, check out the new features here in Service Pack 13. So again, not everything's going to be included inside of the newsletter, but it's a good tool or vehicle to make that touch to the account and see how everything is going. Now over on the left-hand side, we have new features listed out in terms of Service Pack 13. the hot fixes, the known hot fixes, as well as the documentation for them. Again, you can pull those down from the Commvault store. And any known issues are also listed here too. Lastly, let's take a look at early release features. So we're going to be talking about a few of these today. It's going to be a jam-packed 90-minute session, and we're going to go through quite a few of these, but there's more that we won't cover today, and this is a good place that you can take a look at other early release features that are pretty cool. All right, so moving right along here, let's jump back into our presentation. So this presentation, like I say, I hope you find helpful. It's a comprehensive set of information, not just about new things, but also maybe perhaps a little bit of guidance on support and architecture and some fun stuff too. So for all the topics, we do have a sort of a reference guide put together for you. That's in the download section, and you can pull that down. So these are basically this bookmarked by topic, and so all of the topics that we're covering today, wherever possible, I provided a link, and you can jump right to that topic within the documentation. All right, so moving right along here, again, the hotfix packs and service packs are available through store.commvault.com or cloud.commvault.com. Don't forget about that mainstream release cycle, that guidance we have available. Also available through the Maintenance Advantage site. All right. Let's talk about a few other additional resources that you have to stay current. All right, so we just walked through these items on the documentation site. Now, one other thing that I'd like to note is these other tools that are right on the home page for the documentation site. Off on the right-hand side, we have a link to the knowledge base. We have the virtual server agent features matrix. This one is very nice, and it will compare and contrast the different hypervisor and feature and functions. So why do I bring this up? Pretty much each and every time we have one of these sessions is because when we're talking about new features, a lot of times they're released in favor of a particular hypervisor. In a lot of cases, a new feature is introduced relative to VMware or Hyper-V or something like that, maybe AWS or Azure, and we don't want to misconstrue that with all the platforms. Ideally, everything would work alike, but not all of the different hypervisors work the same. So be sure to check out that matrix whenever you're talking about virtualized platforms. The same thing with IntelliSnap here. So Commvault is definitely one of the products out there that has the widest array of engine hardware support as well as cloud vendor. So look at that list. These tools are very, very simple and easy to use, so you can spot check those items whenever we're talking about either a hardware array, a cloud platform, or a hypervisor platform. All right, with that, let's keep moving on here. Another resource for you is the On-Demand Learning Library. So what is this? This is a site that was launched earlier this year through the Education Advantage or the Education Services team. What it provides is an on-demand learning library, just like the name. So if you go to ea.commvault.com, again, this is available for all audiences, internal employees. It is available for partners. It is available for customers. And it is a subscription-based learning platform. And along with each subscription, you also get the traditional instructor-led training credits, depending on what level of subscription you might choose to use. Now, you can also see a sample here if you click on this link. So without any sort of login, you can kind of get a sense of what type of content is out there. What's cool about this site is it provides you an array of learning potential. So whatever you prefer, if you prefer to read text, if you want to watch videos, if you like to look at graphics and images to kind of help the concept, all of that's contained here. So here's some feature items, including some Service Pack 13 notes. You can take a look at the admin console documentation, for example. These are all embedded videos, and like I say, a lot of these items include text, so you can read about the content that's being discussed as well as watching a video. Makes it really, really easy to conform to whatever sort of learning mechanism that you're into at the moment. So late at night, after hours, you want to watch a video, it's all available there. So again, that's through ea.commvault.com. Check it out when you get a chance. And we don't want to forget about our partners. We have updated the partner portal. In the new partner portal is a lot of updated tools. Not only did we update the licensing platforms, but also the quoting tool as well. So if you take a look, jump over there real quick to take a look at a couple of these items. All right, here it is. I'm going to log in real quick. So this is the refresh partner portal. Right on the home page, got a couple of links here that'll link you directly to presentation assets, the quoting tool, and other resources to help the account and process information. So the other thing we have here is the Partner Success Desk. So there's lots of different advertisements going out regarding this information. The Partner Success Desk is there to help our partners in terms of answering questions around a quote or perhaps a license part number or SKU. And there are regional 800 numbers around the world. So don't forget about the new quoting tool, and there's also the link to Partner University, which is also another resource. So within Partner University or Commvault University for internal employees, a couple of things you might want to look at in terms of licensing, for example, is going to be the overview of the new licensing packages. So there is a training module out there. Oh, there we go. There we go. So packaging and pricing learning module. This is something that you may want to take a look at. There are a couple of other ones like the overview here. This one is only 17 minutes in length, so it gives you kind of a high-level overview of some of the new pricing and packaging. In my experience with Commvault, this is by far the greatest evolution ever. Way better than the capacity-based licensing or anything else. So it's gotten a lot simpler, which means quoting is a lot simpler, and probably the turnaround time and exceptions are fewer. So be sure to check out that training. We also have the License Champion module. The pop that in real quick. This little program here, this is an additional item that you can do if you want to become a licensing expert. What happens with this program here called the Licensing Champion, it enables you to become part of a sort of a membership, a little miniature licensing club of folks, and they will offer to send you out information sort of ahead of the curve, or you'll be some of the first to know if you become one of those licensed champions. So check out those two items there. Don't forget about the Commvault University and the new partner portal. All right, so the next segment here is related to the CommCell. In this segment, what I try to cover is anything that's going to impact a deployment or upgrade, things of that nature, anything that's CommCell-wide, settings and things of that nature. So one of the things that I've been doing since Service Pack 6 is putting together what I call the installation review for the CommServe server. What this is a document. It's also in the downloads, the takeaway for today's session. It's a review of setup.exe and the CommServe server installation. So it'll actually walk through all of the installation pages and note any of the subtle changes that have occurred since the previous service pack. So sometimes the packages that we have, the names will change. Some of them will be deprecated. They'll go away, and new things will also be introduced. So what this presentation does is highlight some of those items without you needing to fire up a lab and figure out what's different with the service pack release. Hopefully it'll save you guys some time. And inside of the speaker notes section, anything that has changed since the previous service pack is noted there. And a couple of examples for Service Pack 13 is the Media Agent Core package is replaced by the Storage Accelerator package. So slight name change. We're going to talk about that package a little bit later on today. And there's also Service Pack 13 offers the Wireshark package inside of the Tools menu. So be on the lookout for that. Pull that down. If you could, please let me know if that's a good resource for you. It does take a couple of cycles each quarter to put that together. And as I said, it's been around since SP6, so you can kind of follow the changes as the service packs are released. All right, so we covered this already. We'll skip over this, and as well as the licensing. Covered this already. Let's jump right into the index and deduplication segment. So in this segment, what I try to cover is anything related to the index catalog information, the V2 index, and of course deduplication. So for a couple of service packs now, we've been talking about enhancements for V2 index, and one of them that came along back in Service Pack 11 was changing where you would see index servers and also the logical protection for the index databases. So in Service Pack 11, we introduced the sort of the group or pseudo client that's on a per service storage policy basis that creates a logical entity inside of the ComCell browser, and its job is to protect the catalog information for that given storage policy. So why is that important? Well, if you have multiple media agents, they may actually be servicing multiple storage policies, and to just simply back up the index database subclient wouldn't necessarily give you a comprehensive view of things pertaining to a given service storage policy, rather. So that's kind of the idea behind that entity there. So what's new for Service Pack 13? Well, we have this index load report. Why is this important? Well, with V2 indexing, what can happen, again, if you had 4 or 5 media agents within a pool, and the way V2 indexing works is the initial index server that's touched by the backup job will also own that, that given client's index information. Until such a time you either manually move it or something like that. And if that media agent number 1 is always first up in the queue, it could potentially, over time, be imbalanced as compared to other media agents in the pool, depending on how the settings are set up. So there's a couple things that have been available to provide some assistance with load balancing. One of which is this workflow for rebalancing or leveling out, copying over catalog information to alternate servers. That's available, and the index load report. So both of these items are available through the Commvault store that you can download and simply go to the home page here, type in index, and we should see both of those. You can also jump to the workflow section or the report section to pull that up. So let's take a look. For Service Pack 13, load balance index servers. So this is the workflow. And then for the reports, let's see what we have here. Index server load report. So this is a recently released report that you can pull down and import into the ComCell. You can view it either from the web console or the admin console, either one. And what's kind of cool about this report is with that workflow in place, you can actually execute the workflow right from the report. All right, so let's take a look at the report itself. It gives you the standard tiles with the various colors that we have in all of the different dashboard scenes. I kind of get an idea what the colors indicate, and perhaps that will give you a chance to get ahead of a situation. So let's take a look at how it works here. So if you log into the web console, and this is assuming that you have both of those items imported already, and we'll open up the index server load report here and take a look. It gives us that dashboard type of view. Of course, it is interactive. This is a little bit of a lab here, so there's not a whole lot of information, but any of these charts, you can jump to any trouble spots. It gives you that option, to quickly jump to the problem area. And then up at the top here is where you'll find a button. Again, assuming that you have that workflow imported, you can actually execute it right from here. So you click on that, and it'll basically start a job for you to try to rebalance some of the catalog information across the available media agents. So if you take a look inside of the admin console, it will initiate a job, executing that workflow. Now, is this something that you actually have to do frequently? Now, you may not ever have to do it at all, but it's another tool that you can use in terms of routine maintenance. A health check maybe would be a good time, to take a look, once a quarter or 6 months or something like that. Again, it's a couple of tools that kind of automate the situation for you. So check those out. Those are available from the Commvault store. All right, something else for Service Pack 13 in the deduplication topic. We have opened up the deduplication block size can now go up to 1024, so 1 megabyte in block size. So what is this useful for? Primarily is going to be useful for the larger digital repositories like X-rays or some sort of media where there isn't a lot of redundant information on those compressed images or media files, for example. So there's no need to have a more granular deduplication effort when you're dealing with the larger files that aren't very redundant in the first place. The other area where this could help is perhaps on cloud storage mount paths. It would improve the restore speed. And as we talked about back in last quarter, Service Pack 12, the default for cloud storage targets actually became a 512K block size. So again, that performance enhancement in mind for recoveries, it's now a default for cloud storage targets. Excuse me. So takeaway here is you can also increase the deduplication block size up to 1 megabyte in size. All right, let's jump into the admin console segment. So lots of new stuff inside of the admin console. Let's take a look. All right, so bang, right away when you log in, there's a couple of new features to assist with the navigation effort throughout the admin console, making it even quicker and easier to use. So right up at the top, we have a favorites button, a history button, as well as a built-in search bar, which allows you to search for entities within the COM cell. So how do these work? Well, the favorites is pretty straightforward. You can flag any of the items within the navigation pane as a favorite, and it will appear on the list there. Well, how would that help? Well, that would actually help the individual end user if they simply want to look at reports all day, every day. There's no need to look at the rest of the navigation pane. So rather than doing a customization, you can simply set a favorite. All right, for the search feature here, you can look for any of the entities within the environment. So it's kind of designed to help you quickly locate like a server, for example, a policy or a plan, and what other keyword you put in there, the results will pop up and you can jump to that entity quickly and go ahead and perform an action or modify the properties, etc. All right, so taking a look at the favorites, basically the way it works is, so there's nothing in here currently. All you've got to do is locate the item that you want to flag as a favorite, such as reports. So off to the right, click that little star, and that'll add it to the favorites list. So when you log in, you can jump directly to those items that you have flagged as a favorite. Now you'll notice here, look at all these reports. Wow, this is pretty much everything that's available in the web console, right? All right, so to remove it from the favorites list, just hit the minus sign, and you're basically reset at that point. A couple of new features for Service Pack 13. All right, a couple other things that are helpful in regards to making things quicker and easier is the ability to do a recovery a little bit quicker by providing a calendar-based restore view to locate the point in time that you want to do a recovery from. So you'll see this on the virtual server agent, for example, within the calendar, you're going to see these little blue dots. That's going to indicate that you do have some sort of recovery point or backup occurring on that date. So you select the date that you want to recover from, and then click the little restore link there to select the point in time, assuming that you have more than one within that given date. So it's really easy. All you've got to do is navigate to a server, for example. In this case, I'm going to choose a virtual machine. Let's just choose this Linux VM. And look at that. Here's the calendar off to the right-hand side. So we'll just pick a day to recover from, and then click Restore, and then here's the recovery points that you can choose. So that's pretty much it. And then the procedure goes from there. So really quick and easy to recover. New Service Pack 13 item. All right, so as I alluded to a moment ago, in the reports section of the admin console are all of the web console reports. They're all integrated in now. So if we take a look at the admin console here, go into monitoring and reports. Take a look at this. Pretty much all of the reports, including that index load report that I mentioned, because I had imported it, that would be in the list here too. So what's the idea here is that you no longer have to jump out to the web console to pull in one of your custom reports or one of the other fabulous reports that Commvault offers. All right, here's a couple of other key integrations for Service Pack 13. Is the ability to look at storage policies, schedule policies, and sub-client policies. These are all things that are native to the CommCell console, giving existing customers an opportunity to go ahead and get or adapt to using the admin console. So this is primarily for existing customers when they upgrade. They will have this opportunity. These will be automatically ported over and or displayed inside of the admin console. For new customers, we still want to kind of suggest that they use plans and things like that that are native to the admin console. And we were able to do this before with an additional setting. With Service Pack 13, it basically just goes ahead and exposes it for existing customers. So for existing schedules, things like that, you'll look under policies. You'll see the schedule policies, sub-client policies. And here in Service Pack 13, the storage policies are underneath the storage node of the navigation pane. All right, so here's something else that's new. Array management's been integrated in. What does this mean? Well, if we look at storage here and arrays. So in previous releases, we were able to add in a handful of array types, such as 3par, NetApp, and Nutanix. Now here in Service Pack 13, look at that. Pretty much all of the platforms, the hardware platforms and snap engines that we have access to are all available through the admin console. So one more step into making it possible to do everything you need right from one dashboard. Another integration here is the integration of a couple of the other web console items, such as the download center and links to the store and things of that nature. The way this works is really, in this case, it's kind of like, I guess, added shortcuts to the admin console. And the benefit here, I think, is that, again, you don't have to remember or bookmark something where it might be, a web console feature. You can jump to it directly from the admin console here, including the Commvault store. So if you need to pull down some of those new reports, etc., you can do that right through the admin console. So lots of fun stuff. All right, so moving right along here. Since this is a live recorded session, just a quick check of the Q&A before we move on. Looks good. All right, messaging section. A couple of enhancements for Microsoft Exchange. So Exchange Server has this tool called Messaging Records Management. And what it is designed to do is to help Exchange administrators address things like compliance and archive needs in terms of email messages. So these are rules that are put in by the Exchange administrator. And what Commvault has done here in this case is rather than force people to adapt or change and simply use only the rules that are available through the Exchange client in Commvault, we can actually, in Service Pack 13 here, import those tags or rules from the Exchange server into the COM cell. So there is a utility. You can pull this down, and this utility will bring those tags into the ComServe database. And then in terms of enabling it, in terms of honoring those rules, you need to enable this additional setting here, and that'll give you the opportunity to add the checkbox on the retention policy itself. So what happens is with that option in place and leveraging the Exchange tags, we will honor some of those rules in lieu or in front of some of the Commvault policies. So I've kind of outlined the order of operations here on the left-hand side. Just want to point out that the cleanup policy does regardless of this feature, but also with the Exchange client in general, it is going to clean up stuff based on what you have in that policy. So I believe there's no exception in this case where potentially either stubbed files or messages could be cleaned up as well. So just be aware of that. And again, if you're interested in digging into this topic a little bit further, that's going to be available in the documentation page, and there's a reference into the links guide that I provided today. All right, just wanted to revert back to Service Pack 12 real quick, just to kind of cover off on this feature that came out not too long ago, which is the ability to do a live browse of a database backup, an Exchange database backup, extract a piece of mail, and inject it directly back into a mailbox. So, why is this important? Well, for those shops that have the occasional restore request, it may not be necessary for them to deploy the Exchange client and do granular backups and archives throughout the course of the year. Maybe they just want to protect the database, and that's it, and occasionally attempt to recover a message. Well, that might be the use case here. So you can do a live browse, mount that database up to the media agent, locate that item, and then recover it. So previously, we only supported recovering to either a message file or a PST, which in a lot of cases could help. But in this case, with this additional setting in SP12, you can inject it directly back into the mailbox, so providing that you have the correct credentials and so forth. Alternatively, you could have used the offline mining tool to do the same thing. So some more progressions with the Exchange client and mailbox utilities. All right, a couple of things to talk about in the agents segment here on SharePoint. So for SharePoint Online users, if we're doing any data protection for SharePoint 0365, we can now enhance the ability for self-service for end users by integrating in or mapping in SharePoint Online accounts. That can be done very similar to the way you would do for Exchange Online. And you can also enable the collection of ACLs, or the access control lists, on the subclient itself. And when you do that, if you enable that option for the first time here, you need to run a full backup. So it's during the full backup when the ACLs are going to be collected. After that point in time, the end user could log in to the web console and do the self-service. And when they search for files, they're only going to see the items that they had permission to based on those ACLs. So that's something new for Service Pack 13, whereas previously you had to be a ComCell user with browse permission at the very least. And ACLs were not collected during the backup. So this should clear up and enhance that to make sure that everybody sees the correct documents that they should have access to, and make it a lot simpler to perform end user or self-service recovery. All right. There's another thing that's kind of been put in place to enhance the experience with SharePoint Online. So when you create the client, what could happen is previously, prior to Service Pack 13, you could have potentially done the setup, deploy the agents, and create the client, and then perhaps skip a step in terms of adding in the credential information. So what's new here is this information is actually gathered up front. So when you create a new backup set, and this is for SharePoint Online or 0365, this information is gathered up front. So all 5 of these fields is required during the backup set creation. So if for whatever reason you've entered the incorrect information, it's actually checked at the once you click OK. So once you click OK, that credential information is going to be checked, and you'll get a error message if something is incorrect. Now, in terms of troubleshooting, there is a log, so cvsp-compatibility.log on the client, and that should give you a reference point to figure out what's going on, assuming that you put in all of the credential information correctly. So a couple of enhancements to avoid problems later. If the information wasn't entered incorrectly, when would you find out about it? Well, probably when you're trying to sleep late at night, you get a page or an alert that the job has failed. So we don't want that. And in this case, we're mitigating that with providing that, cross-check up front. All right, IntelliSnap and NAS segment. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, the array management has been added into the admin console. You can view that under the storage node. And just a quick call out to the supported storage arrays. Again, Commvault has the Commvault platform has probably one of the largest in terms of compatibility. If you look at that support matrix, again, you can see all of the different platforms that are available here. So if there's something new in the list that is emerging in terms of the technology, as soon as it picks up mainstream, there's a good chance that Commvault will probably get integrated with that vendor. moving right along here. So again, to pull that up in the admin console, you just go to Arrays, and within there, you can click the Add Array link, and simply proceed from there based on the array type that you want to use. Something else that's new here in Service Pack 13, if you have any SAP HNA environments, the larger environments may be clustered together. And what's new in Service Pack 13 here is the ability to do IntelliSnap snapshots of all the nodes or the active nodes in the cluster in a synchronized fashion all at the same time. So providing that data protection with the speed of IntelliSnap in a coordinated fashion. And the way this works is a lot like some of our other agent types, like the virtual server agent, for example. All of the nodes that have that this has been enabled for, the first node in the list will become the master and sort of coordinate not only the IntelliSnap and the backup process, but also the recoveries too. So I like to think of it sort of like that, like I say, the way the virtual server agent works with proxies in a way. That first node in the HNA group will become the coordinator when this process happens. So a couple of key points here is that we're only going to snap any of the active nodes, and any of the inactive nodes or standby hosts, those are not snapped during that time. So the coordinator itself also is responsible for updating Commvault and the HNA catalog with regards to whether or not the snaps were successful. All right, moving right along here. HPE Store Once integration. And you might be asking, well, what's all this about? Because Commvault has always been able to natively write to disk, and this is a disk-based appliance. Well, Commvault's always been able to do that. Back in the day, when disk was kind of emerging for data protection purposes, a lot of companies created the virtual tape library concept to get that integrated. Well, Commvault always wrote to disk natively, so not a huge deal there. And then the next advent of technology was integrating in deduplication. So that's not new here either, right? So the Store Once is HPE's latest edition of a deduplication appliance. They used to have what's called the D2D, D2D, D as in David. And this is the latest iteration of that. It resides on the virtual storage array platform, which is very scalable. These devices can, in terms of usable space, can fill up 2 racks if you wanted to. And there's multiple other architectures that you could take a look at from the HP documentation site. So what exactly is new here for Service Pack 13? Well, what is actually happening here is we now have integration with HP's deduplication engine called the Catalyst. So the Catalyst technology is the term for HP's deduplication on the Store Once, and we can now sort of put that dedup capability from the HP side further upwards into the stream of the Commvault environment, so all the way out to the client side, if you like, using our storage accelerator agent or software package. So what does that mean? We can support all of the HP deduplication technologies, such as replication, extend that out to our Commvault client and do source-side deduplication, and perform synthetic pulls on the appliance, which is normally a no-no. And then HP also has this extension into the cloud called Cloud Link Storage, which Commvault also supports as well. So there is some terminology from the HP side of things they call client-side or source-side deduplication, they call that low bandwidth mode. And then, if you put it on the media agent, it's called high bandwidth mode. When we do in Convault land, we call it a dash copy or an aux copy. They call it a catalyst copy. A synthetic full or a dash full for Convault is called a catalyst clone. So just a few bits of terminology there. And the way this works is really cool. It's been developed between Convault and HP and put together really nicely in that from an administrative side of things, it is very, very simple to integrate. So with Service Pack 13, the way this is getting introduced is you do need to add an additional setting on the ComServe, so activate HPE Catalyst. What that does is it gives you the ability to add in the HPE store once as a library, and then you'll be able to provide the configuration information. So step one is to create what's called a Catalyst store. That's on the HP side. So you go through their management console and create what's called a Catalyst store. You can have more than one store. It's a logical container within the appliance that we're going to target for our backups and archives. And it may give you the opportunity to either segregate data or apply different rules in terms of space usage and stuff like that on the HP side of things. So that's what we're going to target from the Convault side of things. And it basically becomes another disk library inside of the Convault software. After that, you're going to create a traditional storage policy, use that as your data path, and then on the client side, add the storage accelerator software package, which basically gives you data movement, sort of media agent movement capabilities. Now, you also on the client side need to enable this option to, again, as a sort of a safety check, ensure that that's what you want to do. So that's one of the steps. All right, let's take a look at how it's integrated in here. As I mentioned, you just log into the management console for the HP, create your Catalyst store. Then on the ComCell console, right-click on the ComServe, go to the additional settings, so ComServe properties. Add in that additional setting. Set that setting to true. And then once you've clicked OK here, you can then go over to Storage Resources, and in the Library section, create that new library. So that's when it'll appear here. So that's with that additional setting in place. And then from there, like I said, the next couple of steps are pretty much standard operating procedure where you're going to rope this into a storage policy, maybe a policy copy, whichever you choose, and then extend that software package out to the client itself. So at a high level, this is sort of the data flow. What happens is, just like with the Convault deduplication, the only difference here is that we're going to leverage the Catalyst technology, which is built into that storage accelerator software package. Like I mentioned, you're going to install that onto the client, and that allows you, or the client rather, gets that data movement capability that's traditionally done with the media agent. That will mean that the data will be sent directly to the store once. It will do its deduplication, hashing, checksums between the client and the store once directly. Now, we do still want the media agent and Convault to maintain control and awareness of all the activities, so the catalog information is sent over to the media agent for safekeeping and references. Particularly during data aging, we can flag which jobs are eligible to be aged. We let the Catalyst or the store once know that these jobs are now aged, and it'll perform its housekeeping process. Synthetic fulls and auxiliary copies. Well, how do you set that up? Well, you just schedule it. Create the copy and you schedule it. It couldn't really get much easier the way they've set this up. Really from behind the scenes standpoint, what's happening is the media agent is going to be working with these store once, kind of initiating that task. and requesting what's called the catalyst clone to occur on the store once. So that process, it's almost like a little bit of a snapshot, if you will. And just like with convol deduplication, the store once is basically going to be updating its pointers and references to the original blocks within its own deduplication database. So the cool thing is, normally or in the past, if you're working with a dedupe appliance and you try to do a synthetic full, that would mean rereading and rehydrating the data out of the appliance through the media agent just to be rewritten and re-ingested and deduplicated and compressed all over again, which is normally a painfully slow process. So generally speaking, synthetic fulls with a dedupe appliance is a no-no. In this case, that's not true because we now have that integration and awareness with that Catalyst technology built in. So no reread and no rewrite operation. So very similar to the convol deduplication. All right. Question real quick. Got a question on the Q&A panel. So this is a live recorded session. James Bates asks if we should disable convol deduplication and or compression. The cool thing here is as soon as you associate a client or subclient to the storage policy, it's going to automatically leverage the Catalyst technology, assuming that you have that storage accelerator software package deployed on that client. So there's no need to enable or disable anything. It's going to automatically flip over to using the store once technology. All right, so in terms of replication, the way this works is the store once, the appliances, they're going to send the payload amongst each other, of course. And again, we want Convol to have that job awareness and that control, whereas years ago, you know, if you're familiar with what's called a replica library or something like that, during those days, we didn't really know what the appliances were doing. We just would be sending data to the initial target and then assume or hope that the appliances were doing their replication. We have a little bit more insight here with the store once in that it's actually going to be controlled by Convol. So in the case of a what we would call a dash copy, this is actually going to be the two store once devices communicating with each other, but Convol is going to initiate the action. The media agents at the secondary site is actually going to prefetch catalog information from the source to ensure that that gets copied over first thing. So once that's done, the store once is going to be informed by the media agent of which jobs it needs to be copied. So if you've gone through the policy and have made a selective copy sort of with specific subclients or something like that, the media agent is going to coordinate which jobs to be copied over. And that's about it. Again, the catalog information is going to be maintained also at the media agent level, and then the store onces are going to communicate with each other as well. There's a question from Joseph in the chat panel. Can the store onces be different? I believe this question is related to the model of the store once. That's my guess here. And to my recollection, with the store once, you can do sort of a hub and spoke type of configuration with different sizing. So from a Convol perspective, we really just regard it as a disk library. So you know, so long as the HP side of things supports that model, then so should we. All right, so moving right along here, a couple of more points. One thing I should also note here is the documentation site is really done up well for this integration. So one of the things you might be asking is, what about sizing our media agents? Hey, if we're not using Convol deduplication, what does that mean? Well, it means that the footprint of the media agent could actually be smaller or at least slightly different from a traditional Convol deduplication configuration. you're using a mixed environment, well, still follow what's appropriate. But really what you need to do is, for guidance, for sizing, is go out to the documentation site, and click on the SP13 documentation, and look at the media agent hardware. So this is done up pretty nice. The specific topic is this one, hardware specifications for media agents. And looky here. So here are all of the basic, in terms of guidance on how to configure a media agent for hardware specs with the different deduplication modes. And in this case, since we're using HP's deduplication, if you're using that exclusively, then you would go with a non-dedupe mode media agent. So there's a couple of key points out here. You can look at this from either like a front-end terabyte perspective or the number of streams. Now each HP device, depending on what model you have, you want to make sure you look at the documentation there as well, because they can handle, if you get that smaller appliance, it may not be able to choke down 300 streams at a time, whereas your media agent might be able to. So make sure you coordinate that with the actual appliance size that you're getting. And otherwise, we're still recommending 10 gig on the media agent. The reason for this is anytime you're doing any of the aux copy operations or recovery operations, we still want to have that bandwidth because the data will be transferred, perhaps through the media agent in those cases. So other than that, these sizes could potentially be fine-tuned depending on the environment that you are in. And if you think about it here, you're kind of displacing some of the tasks or the role that the media agent would typically play, in that it's no longer handling all the data movement, especially if it's coming directly from the client and going straight to the destination. So definitely some areas where you could really get in and do some fine-tuning there. So incredible opportunities here. I also wanted to, again, point out the documentation for this integration. So let's just type in catalyst. I'm sure you could use another word, but here it is, HPE Store Once Catalyst. So like I said, the documentation's actually been put together pretty well. And this is specific to the Catalyst integration. So a little bit different than the VTL or NAS configuration. That first step is creating the Catalyst store through the management console. So believe it or not, we've actually got the steps on how to do that here. It varies based on the software version that you're using on the Store Once. And then in terms of the configuration, in Service Pack 13, we do need that additional setting, so that's also listed here. And then creating the library is the next step, and then deploying the storage accelerator package to the clients themselves. And then again, in SP13, that's an additional setting just to, just a little safety net to make sure that this is the direction you want to go, and you're not expecting a different outcome or something like that. So there's best practices outlined here as well. A couple of support items. So regarding the deduplication and compression. I think that was mentioned here in the Q&A panel as well. That's all outlined here. So good job on the documentation here. And one other thing to mention, two more things rather, is what happens when the Catalyst software gets upgraded or updated. How do we handle that from a Commvault perspective? Well, guess what? It's built in or integrated into that storage accelerator software package, which is the Commvault component. And any updates that HP comes up with will be rolled into our service pack. So you can upgrade or update that client just like you normally would. How easy is that? One other thing to note here is with this release in Service Pack 13, there was a performance bug identified, and it is addressed with hotfix 1161. I did double check with this the other day. It is part of the latest hotfix pack. So as long as you roll that in, you should be good to go there. Quick check on the chat panel here. Looks like we've got a couple of other questions come in. The question is, since the store once is doing the deduplication, there is no deduplication partition created on the media agent. That's correct. And does the store once do all the hash lookups to see if the blocks and chunks have been sent correctly? Yes, that is correct. So cruising right back to the slide here, that is going to be coordinated between the source and the destination, just almost like we would do with our Commvault deduplication. So before it even hits the network, there is that checksum that's going to occur between the client and the target. Does this information get sent back to Commvault? The component that does get sent to Commvault is the index information or metadata catalog information. The dedupe engine information is not necessarily shared with our media agent. That stays within the store once. I hope that answers that question. And moving right along here, let's take a look at a couple of other topics regarding archiving. All right, anybody familiar with the content store mailbox? Well, the content store allows us to ingest mail, not only from Exchange, but other entities. And when the messages are being sent to what we have called the content store repository, occasionally what can happen is the messages are forwarded to Commvault via an email attachment. And what can happen is, depending on the attachment type, we may actually lose some of the header information, such as the sender and recipient, the blind carbon copy, stuff like that. It gets sort of shuffled around in that mechanism there. So what we've enabled here in Service Pack 13 is the option to do what's called the envelope format. We support that now, and we can capture and journal that information, which you might need later on during some sort of compliance search or something. So the option here is within the journal policy itself. It's just a little tick. And then the other feature that is kind of I guess noteworthy for Content Store is you can take an email or Outlook client, for example, and view the mail that has been ingested by Commvault and forward and reply to the messages directly from that email client. So pretty cool stuff there. Let's take a quick jump over to the virtualization segment here. All right, so I've labeled this one self-service, and the reason for this is this feature, I think, is designed to help individuals who may not be heavily involved with administering a data center, aren't really familiar with the way a virtualization platform works, and they need to get a recovery done. So we can do a restore to a cluster. So when you do your browse and recovery, rather than going all the way down the list and granularly, picking a data store, which you could do, you have the option to just simply select a cluster, and then with these additional settings in place, sort of enhance or override the default behavior. And there's two of them here. So the first one is this big long one here. What this allows you to do with this in place is to select the cluster during the restore, and if a host has been sort of checked off in the checkbox, and for whatever reason that host goes offline, it's disconnected, goes into maintenance mode, the software can go ahead and look around rather than just failing the job and frustrating the end user. Look around for an available member of the cluster and use that alternate host. Similarly, with this other setting here, they can do the same thing with the data store. So what this allows the software to do is if there was a data store that went offline, or was unavailable, maybe it filled up, completely full of space, it can go ahead and select another data store. So what it's going to do with that setting in place is on a per VM basis, do that check for availability when that particular VM is queued up and ready to be restored. If you had 4 or 5 of them going at the same time, it's going to do that on a per VM basis and look around for a data store that's accessible to the cluster. So making sure it's like cluster aware, not just some standalone disk, and then send it on out over to that particular data store. So again, these are 2 additional settings with the idea here of reducing maybe some unintended frustration on the end user who may not be very, very familiar with the actual virtualization resources being under maintenance or decommissioned or something like that. We can have the software sort of do more of a smart recovery for us. You just sort of shoot it at the target and let the software pick it out. So this particular feature in Service Pack 13 is for currently is for in-place restores only and only for VMware. Now, in terms of troubleshooting, the log that you would use is the vsrt.log. So basically, the restore log, vsrt, for troubleshooting. All right, another little item on virtualization and recoveries is the ability to inject new IP address information into Linux VMs. Pretty cool. So we've had this capability with Windows for quite a while, and what this allows you to do, either through a restore, a live sync, or something of that nature, some sort of replication, is to inject a new IP address into the Linux VM. So how does it work? In Service Pack 13, what you do need to do is on the destination, excuse me one moment, rocking and rolling throughout this session here, got a little dried out. You do need to deploy the file recovery enabler. So this is a little OVA. It's a more or less a Commvault appliance, and that's going to assist us with this process here. So you might be thinking, well, not too long ago, we integrated that into Media Agent software. So in Service Pack 13, this is still the case. You still do need the FREL, or File Recovery Enabler, at this point in time as this feature is being introduced. So again, with that component in place, what's going to happen is when you recover the data, send it over to the destination, the FREL is going to be mounting up that disk and updating the IP address information inside of the configuration file for that Linux OS type. So once it's done that, it can release the mount, and then the virtual machine can be powered up with the new settings in place. So the key points there is really just in SP13, you can replace IP addresses for Linux VMs, and in the case of Service Pack 13, you need to use that additional component there called the File Recovery Enabler. Again, that's in the documentation if you have any questions. It's pretty well laid out there. Jumping over to public cloud segment, stepping away from the private cloud for a moment. In SP13, we have early release support for AWS and Azure doing IntelliSnap. On the VM group inside of the admin console, it's simply a flick of a switch there. And what's going to happen behind the scenes is Commvault's going to go ahead and create the associated, primary snap copy, the schedules, and so forth, and also the snap retention. By default, is going to be set to 8 recovery points. This is definitely something that you can modify. So just a FYI there, the default setting for the recovery points is going to be set to 8. Other than that, you just flip the switch, and it's ready to go. So that's going to take advantage of the built-in AWS and Azure snap engines out there. All right, so a couple other items, public cloud related, is the Amazon Relational Database Services. So these are services from AWS. So basically, you can host database instances inside of Amazon. They have a wide variety of database platform support, and these are the ones that we can also integrate in and support in terms of data protection and Service Pack 13. So ranging from SQL to Oracle and a few others, it depends on the type of data protection that you want to do. So Amazon actually supports two mechanisms for doing data protection. We can't actually inject an agent or anything like that inside of the database instance itself. That is, more or less a proprietary AWS item. But we can stick a proxy server out there. Ideally, it would be in the same region as the database instance. And that's going to help facilitate this process of doing one of two things. Either a built-in sort of dump or export. So that's one mechanism. So the database types that support that, we can integrate with that, sort of coordinate the process, collect the job statistics, and also report on that information. Same thing with IntelliSnap support through AWS. We can do that also with these database types here in Service Pack 13 as well. So just like we would have years ago, the conversation around using something like the SQL agent, having that conversation with the database administrator, this is kind of the same concept, I think, here, where we can have that conversation and say, hey, you know what, you're going to need to protect that data anyways, or ideally you should. Just because it's in the cloud doesn't make it perfectly safe, and therefore you can continue to do all of your data management and data protection through Commvault software. All right, one other item to mention is also the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure called OCI. This is a platform as a service, if you will, for Oracle. And what's new in Service Pack 13 is we have a new Oracle OCI pseudo client. So you'll see that if you click Add New Client, this guy will show up here. And when you create the client, it's much like any of the other ones where you're basically going to be inputting in the configuration information, the path, and that sort of stuff to that particular account. So again, what Commvault can do is coordinate the backup schedule, do the recovery and reporting, and the Commvault index server is what's going to be used to sort of collect the metadata information about any of these backups that are performed on that platform. So a couple of key points here is in Service Pack 13, it's rolled into the console. And if you have multiple OCI cloud accounts, you'd want to create an individual OCI client for each one of them. As you can see here, that account information is kind of unique on the client settings itself there. All right. Kind of wind down here, let's revert back to looking at some of the cool alerts and reports. A couple of new ones for Service Pack 13. We have a new anomaly dashboard and something called inferred ownership. So these are both items that you could pull down from the Commvault store. There's a bunch more. So this is really a good opportunity, again, to go back to the documentation site and take a look. I'm just going to type in reports in the search bar and take a look here at our available reports. Look at that list. Wow. Isn't that amazing? It goes on and on and on and on. So what this means is if you're looking for a particular type of reporting or some sort of function, there's a good chance that it may already be out there. And so feel free to explore this. Perhaps almost all of these can be tuned and filtered and adjusted to to your exact criteria, if you will, so you don't have to go and build a custom report. So let's take a look at this anomaly report here, or the dashboard. What it's intended to do is sort of summarize any anomalies that are detected. So for example, if a job is suddenly running for days and days and days, and normally it takes 30 minutes to do a backup, that would be an unusual event. So that would show up. You can also trigger an alert based on something like that. And through the dashboard here, if you look at the data views, so I'm just kind of demonstrating what's available here in the documentation site. You can see some of the data views that you would get from this particular report. Both events and jobs are displayed, and again, giving it sort of the charts and the dashboard's type of view. So depending on what type of event you're looking at, the different type of information will be displayed. And what this allows you to do is to quickly act on the issue. So if there was one of those jobs that had fallen behind for whatever reason, you could simply click on it directly from the report and get busy in terms of correcting the problem. Let's see that other one here, inferred. Where's that at? Ownership report. So what is this about? So this displays the files and folders that users are accessing during a specific period of time. So where this might be helpful is for a few use cases, I believe. It's definitely going to be an add-on assistance in terms of an archiving solution. Normally we're looking at the modified time or the access time or something like this. This might actually give you a little bit different perspective in seeing like what files are actually most popular in a given share or something like that. So a couple of new ones there. And like I say, definitely go and explore some of the items out here. There's tons and tons of stuff for virtualization, tons and tons of stuff for health reporting. There's that index load report. There's growth and trending, all sorts of stuff that's built in here. All right, so in terms of alerts and reports, a lot of that information that's going to be displayed is basically derived from some of the settings that you put inside of your plans and other policies. These can be set at the system level, and you can put in different things related to what's called the strike count or the key performance indicators. Set up SLAs, allow some grace periods for certain groups of clients, and here it is, your recovery point objectives and RTOs. So you'll see a lot of the reports. We have the RPO dashboard and the live sync monitor. Those kind of things are kind of derived from some of these settings. So this is where it is at the global level. Again, you can also set these up at either the client level or the group level. So if you have mission critical machines, they may have a slightly different setting there or no setting at all. These will also pop up inside of the health reports and the recovery readiness reports. So it's all about being ready to recover, right? So let's take a look at that. This is what it would look like through the admin console. Again, giving that dashboard style of view. You can quickly jump to any of the red guys and get more details on that information, do some filtering. That exact same report is available through the web console. Take a look there. And here it is. So RPOs, perhaps for virtual machines in this case, we're looking at the live sync monitor. And you can quickly see, based on your recovery point settings, where you're at in terms of being synchronized and up to date. So again, you can, through the dashboard here, jump to or perhaps, get more information. Maybe something's in progress at that point. The health report and also the worldwide dashboard has been updated. So back in SP12, this was completely redesigned to give you more pertinent information up front in sort of a more cleaner fashion. Let's take a look if I'm still logged in here. We can take a look at the dashboard real quick and give you sort of a live view. So logged into the web console, here's the sort of the dashboard for worldwide level. So if you have an environment that has multiple cells throughout the geography, it can be looked at holistically from the worldwide view. And again, looking directly, you can jump right to some of those critical items immediately, just right from the dashboard. So very, very interactive and intuitive. Now for individual cells, it's also the same kind of concept. Same kind of look and feel. So they keep it simple there. The same thing with the health report. Same kind of concept here. So any of these tiles, again, you can jump to the critical items and perhaps have this report sent out to other administrators. So you've got the capacity planning and things like that all listed throughout the health report. So as a partner and a Commvault employee, this is definitely one of the or a few of the tools that we could use to engage and help the success of our customers, making sure that they're getting the data protection that they need. And of course, looking at some of those recovery point objectives, perhaps it's an indicator of some infrastructure problems or a resource shortage, right? All right, a couple more things. We're coming up to the bottom of the hour, and we're going to wrap up here with a couple of cool items. So hyperscale and appliance. Commvault has released a new appliance. It's called the Remote Office 1100. What is it for? Well, it is for those small office and remote offices that need a little help from Commvault. You can get more information on this guy right at commvault.com. Wrong site. Commvault.com, right on the homepage. Oh, here we go. Guess it's been moved. Apologize for that. Anyhow, the small appliance it has internal disk in a RAID 5 configuration up to about 15 terabytes usable capacity. Has integrated in SSD for the index and deduplication databases. So it could be deployed as a standalone sort of combo install like ComServe and MediaAgent, or a MediaAgent only if you just simply want to do that hub and spoke configuration. Put a Commvault presence out there with a all-in-one box. You don't have to look around for any particular hardware or anything like that. It's available. Now for hyperscale specifically, a couple of new enhancements as a Service Pack 13 is the support for the integrated 1 gig management interface. The appliances or the hyperscale appliances come with 10 gig interfaces typically, and so this is more or less for the management aspects of the nodes themselves. There's also a really cool driver replacement tool that's actually integrated into the admin console, so you can see failed drives and do sort of logical driver replacement like you would with a tape library right through the admin console. The deployment and imaging process for the appliances has also been improved to where it's broken up into stages, which means if there's a connectivity problem or something like that throughout the deployment, you could revert back to the last known good accomplishment or the stage of the deployment process. And there's also a factory reset option now that'll help you clean things up if for whatever reason something goes really bad and you want to get a clean start rather than a bunch of manual processes. It's sort of bundled up into a factory reset package. So that's kind of new for the hyperscale appliance. Let's move on to a couple of honorable mentions and close it out for today. So did you know that you can use Google Assistant or Amazon Alexa to do some Commvault tasks? Well, if you have one of those services and the appropriate smartphones or other devices and connectivity to your Commvault environment, you could just ask Google or Alexa, hey, is there anything wrong with my console? Now, depending on the type of information that's produced, Alexa or Google, for that matter, may say, hey, would you also like me to send you a report? Sure. So think about it. You could spend your entire day at the beach just talking to your your device and getting updates periodically on the Commvault environment. And of course, it'll send you a report with that related information too. So kind of a cool feature there. You don't even have to log in or get behind the keyboard, right? You just ask Google. A couple other cool things integrated in to, again, sort of help out with the ease of notifications is push updates to the Commvault mobile app. So within the control panel is where you're going to set this up. And what this means is if you're using either the Commvault Edge or Commvault Now apps on your mobile device, those notifications can be pushed out. You'll get a sort of a little icon indicator, just like you would with like a new mail or something like that. In the virtualization space, we have ServiceNow integration. So ServiceNow is a cloud platform. And again, Commvault is really going out of the way to not only provide integration with so many platforms out there. Here is another way where with a Commvault package that can be integrated into ServiceNow, these administrators can perform their own backups from that native console, the ServiceNow console itself. So perform a backup and a restore right from their ServiceNow console, and also they can get job statuses and things like that without having to really become a Commvault administrator. Same thing with vRealize from VMware. We talked about this last quarter. We have that integration as well. So natively to that console with the Commvault package in place, it becomes more or less a menu item to do some Commvault tasks. All right, now this is probably the last one I'm going to lead off with you for today, is the PowerShell module for Commvault. Now you're going to get this from the Commvault store. I've been talking about that a lot today. It is a bundle of commandlets and things like that that you can import into PowerShell. And on the Commvault store, if we go out there real quick, there we go. Just going to type in PowerShell. See what we get. There it is, Commvault PowerShell module. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is where you're going to find the user guide for this particular option here, as well as doing the download itself. So this is the package. You're going to download that. And then here is the user guide, which you can also download. So it tells you about the deployment. I'll show you that in a moment, as well as some of the commandlet type of features and functions that you can do with this bundle. All right, so how does it work? Well, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to download the package, right? We talked about that. You're going to unpack the bundle and import it. And one thing you do need to do is make sure that you have a supported version of PowerShell installed. When I did this the other day, PowerShell 5.1 was available. And then from that point forward, you can go ahead and import them in. So pretty straightforward. In fact, I can show it to you in just a matter of moments, literally. So once you have that download done, we're going to log into the server here, launch PowerShell. What's step number one? Verify the PowerShell version. So it's a simple command there. And we want to have that 5.0 or above. And then we just need to locate our download here. And unpack it. to basically just extract it. It's a compressed package. We get a little folder there. Then back inside of the PowerShell side of things, we're basically going to set the path to where to get that installer and import that in. So you'll type in the path. Fast forward a little bit here. And at that point, you can do the install /install. That's going to really quickly zap in all of the commandlets, etc. into PowerShell. And at that point, the next step is to connect to the ComServe and start performing queries. So connect to ComServe. You'll need to put in the appropriate credentials. So here's our ComServe server name. Put in the credentials. And once this is in place, you can go ahead and perform the PowerShell command itself. So for example here, if you get client, this will basically give us a list of clients that are available, and there you go. So easy integration. And just to wrap up here, I want to thank everybody for your time today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. Don't forget that all of these are recorded. These sessions are available, so if you need to get up to speed, there is no version 10 to current version 11 Delta class, but we do have these quarterly updates, and they are recorded. They're out there on Partner University and Commvault University for you to consume whenever you want. And there's other stuff out there too, like the walkthrough demos and things, and the license champion stuff we talked about. Don't forget about the on-demand learning library. And with that, I would again like to thank my colleagues, Jim Anderson, John Fox, and Mr. Luke Walker from Products for assisting in the panelists during this quarter's session. And thank all of you, and hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you very much. Jim Anderson, take it away.
Thank